Good evening, and thank you so much for joining us on this Thursday. You're watching the 9 at Night. I'm Stephania Jimenez. Tonight, San Antonio police investigating what appears to be a deadly road rage shooting. This happened on the 500 block of Lebanon Street that's on the southeast side around 4:15. Investigators are still gathering details. They say that a truck driver and another driver had some sort of an issue, and when the victim, a man in his 50s, went toward the other vehicle, someone shot and killed him. The other vehicle then sped away. The truck had a passenger, but investigators say that person didn't get hurt in the shooting. Meanwhile, San Antonio investigators also looking for 3 people who shot and robbed a Brinks driver this morning. Police say the trio assaulted a Brinks driver at around 8 this morning at a Chase Bank in the northeast side by FM 78. They held him at gunpoint and at some point fired shots, but no one was hit. Eventually, they drove off in a black sedan. The Brinks driver was injured in the confrontation, but we are told that he'll be okay. In other news, a woman lost her life after a truck hit her on the interstate. Happened around 5 this morning on I-35 near Division Avenue. Police say the woman got into a minor crash with a semi near the exit ramp, and while the driver of the 18-wheeler and the woman was exchanging information, another truck came and hit her. Investigators say that killed her. The truck driver told officers that it was just so dark at that time that he didn't see her. The city of San Antonio has helped more than 330,000 migrants over the last 2 years, and now the city's bracing for more. The council voted this morning to seek federal reimbursement through March for costs related to its Migrant Resource Center. That's the place where asylum seekers get help whenever they're in the Alamo City. City Hall reporter Garrett Berger tells us how a change in federal policy could actually bring more people right here to San Antonio.
Every month, more and more people are coming up from the border and through the city of San Antonio. And since it opened in July, through its Migrant Resource Center, or MRC.
There are days that we have a little bit under 1,000. There are days that we've had up to 1,800 individuals coming through the center.
The center helps migrants with travel arrangements, feeds them, and can provide a temporary place to stay. And the city's share of the costs is reimbursed through the feds.
We're one of the only cities in the country that has a centralized effort.
A Trump-era policy known as Title 42 could end as soon as next week. And when it does, the city expects to see a lot more people.
We anticipate we'll see about a 30% increase. I don't know if the spike is going to be immediately, but we are prepared. I mean, if we need to add more staff resources, we will, and we'll increase our reimbursement requests from FEMA.
Assistant City Manager Lori Houston says handling the influx will depend on keeping people moving onward. Many already have tickets when they come through, she says, and Catholic Charities, which has run the MRC since October, helps purchase travel for those who can.
And so we're able to handle it right now.
Though to keep enough space, they may need to send migrants to the airport 8 to 10 hours before their flights, rather than 6. We tried to interview the head of Catholic Charities as well, but he refused to talk with us. Garrett Berger, KSAT 12 News.
All right, so speaking of legal issues, Bexar County Criminal District Court judges are worried about the new year, but not because of the backlog, but because there might not be enough prosecutors at the district attorney's office. Recently, more than a dozen people quit the department, so a lot of courts don't have an assigned prosecutor, and without that, cases can't get resolved, and so they're just further delayed.
These jury trials are set months in advance. And so only certain prosecutors know what's going on in every particular case. Without that prosecutor being available, cases have to be reset.
Now, the district attorney, Joe Gonzalez, says that part of the issue here is pay. Some prosecutors are being wooed by law firms and district attorneys' offices in other counties that pay more money. It's been nearly a week since 4 people were killed in a bizarre explosion on the southeast side. Now, today, we learned more about the underground home where it happened. Public records show the owners requested an electrical permit from the city of San Antonio in 2018, but they were denied. Our Jonathan Cotto explains why.
Today, we confirmed the work at the excavation site is done. The 75-acre property on the 9700 block of South Presa has now been handed back over to family. Investigators have ruled out the possibility of a drug lab or explosive devices as the cause. They're now looking at whether a propane tank that was connected to the underground home could have been the source. The explosion was reported around 11:30 p.m. last Friday. Investigators discovered the bodies of 4 victims over the next 2 days. Arson Bureau officials say there were reports of people on the property smelling gas prior to the blast. A public information search on the city's development services website shows the underground house was without permits. The last request on record was in 2018, when it only received a partial pass. That's because the structure needed the required building permits. That request was never completed. Now investigators say they are hopeful soil samples sent out for testing will help determine the exact cause of the deadly explosion. Jonathan Cotto, KSAT 12 News.
2 questions with no answers. This morning, Uvalde community members went before a congressional committee and asked why the Robb Elementary School shooting happened and what they've done about it. The bipartisan Judiciary Committee members listened to heartfelt pleas from the city's only pediatrician, lawmakers, and family members from Uvalde. Each one wanted gun control aimed at preventing another massacre. Tess Mata's sister, who was one of the victims of Uvalde, she was among the speakers, and she said she was frustrated by all of the inaction.
Children in America are dying, and you're arguing over the fact of, well, if we take away this gun, we're taking away our Second Amendment laws. That's not the issue. The issue is your people are dying, you are the leaders, and you aren't doing anything about it.
America saw how this young man acted.
You see him right there. State Senator Roland Gutierrez also questioned the lawmakers. He asked them why they haven't raised the age limit to buy semi-automatic rifles from 18 to 21. Guilty on all charges. The jury took only about 2.5 hours to convict the man who's been on trial for killing a police dog. Matthew Mireles was on trial for killing the Bexar County Sheriff's canine known as Chucky. Jurors began deliberations around noon, and then by mid-afternoon, the jury found him guilty on all 10 charges, including evading arrest, interfering with a police service animal, and 8 counts of aggravated assault of a public servant. So now he faces 25 years to life in prison, and he's going to be sentenced in February. Now switching gears, how are you liking these cooler temperatures? Meteorologist Adam Caskey now has your Friday forecast.
Feeling the chill again tomorrow morning, just not as cold as what we had earlier today. Still jacket weather, 43 degrees at 7 a.m. By the afternoon, we're into the mid-60s, some increasing clouds and not much of a breeze. Those increasing clouds could drop a few sprinkles Friday night, early Saturday. Not a big deal. Negligible, really. Then this weekend, cool. Mornings near 40 and afternoons only in the lower 50s with variable cloud cover. Next chance of rain comes on Monday, where we could actually have some minor accumulations.
Okay, so now I have a question for you. Do you need any COVID testing kits? Because today the White House announced that it's sending 4 more COVID tests to each household that requests them. The Biden administration is doing this as part of its new COVID-19 prevention plan. It says it's going to open mobile vaccination sites and also up supplying things like masks, gloves, and hospital gowns. It's also going to send more support to nursing homes. Last week, nearly 459,000 COVID cases were reported and almost 3,000 people died from the virus. We're out of time. The 9 at Night returns tomorrow. Have a beautiful night. Don't forget to stay warm.